Happy Monday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. Trade to Black. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Today's Trade to Black, as usual, presented by Dutchie. To visit more, I can't even talk today. Visit business.dutchie.com. Lost my voice there. Hope everything's doing all right. I need some water. Anyway, good to have you guys all here. Coming up, we're going to have Michael Bronstein. We're going to debrief our interview last week with Senator Rand Paul, who has said he's still concerned that Congress could slip into banning hemp in 2 weeks. So we're going to get Michael Bronstein's take because he got a chance to see the interview. Plus, Margaret Brodie, CEO of Rubicon Organics, is going to come in, give us an update on Canada. There's a federal budget hearing that's going to be coming up on November 4th, and we'll see whether or not Mark Carney and his Liberal government will have this excise tax related to cannabis in that some way, somehow. So lots to get into here on a Monday, and let's welcome in AV. So I almost lost my voice.
Yeah. So,
it happens. It happens.
Uneventful Monday. There were a lot of liquidations in crypto. Cannabis pretty much was flat on the day.
Yeah.
Curaleaf, by the way, kicked off their index inclusion.
They did
officially today with the S&P and TSX index. So, I mean, it was kind of a relatively slow day.
Very slow. Steve Bassos, can we get Luc Mongeau back on? Yes, we are reaching out to the team. I have a call with him this week, so hopefully we get him on in the next week or two. But they continue to pay down debt, if I'm understanding that correctly, with some of the stuff that they've announced over the last couple of weeks. Correct, Anthony?
They did. They retired some debt, I think last week, couple weeks before they announced some dilution to raise cash, which, I mean, the capital is going down to pay down the debt. But yeah, we should get Luke back on to address the financial stability of the company moving forward.
Michael, creating a membership but not asking any significant questions with the COO is baffling. Trip is lost. Didn't like the Verano interview. Okay, this is not a membership cost. That is still free. Okay, Michael, I want to make this clear to everybody. Everything that we're still doing is going to be for free. Okay, free. I'm adding more stuff into it, and this is going to be behind a paywall. And this is going to be added stuff. If you want to subscribe to it, great. If you don't bother. But at the end of the day, whatever you're getting on a weekly content schedule is still going to be, guess what? Free. All right. So I hope that clarifies the air a little bit. And fair. Whatever, Michael. I don't need to hear comments like that. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm trying to do whatever I possibly can. But don't come on here and say certain things about how this interview was. I'm not going to say the word, but we're trying to do what we possibly can. So at the end of the day, I know people are a little frustrated with what's going on in the industry right now, and they're waiting for an answer. But as I keep saying, man, we're doing our part. We're trying to get through to people. It's not as easy as it looks sometimes. We're trying to reach out to people. We're not purposely having them on. It's just one of those things. We do what we possibly can on a daily basis. So hope that clears up the air and onwards and upwards. But at the end of the day, it's just we're doing what we can. Anthony, you want to add anything to that? Or are you all right?
Good. I am good.
With that, let's go into our first segment, Insider's Edge, with the president of the American Trade Association, Michael Bronstein. Let's roll, Arns. Arns is not... Good to see you, Michael Bronstein. Let's bring him in here on a Monday. There was my 3-minute rant. What'd you think of that, my friend?
I'm here. I'm not behind a paywall.
Hey, it's free. Anyways, good to see you.
Nothing's ever free in this life.
I know, right? It's just trying to be a businessman, but also want to make sure it's fair and cheap and people see value. But you're still going to get what you got for free. But outside of that, we're going to add a few more things to it. There will be a membership that you want to subscribe. Great. If you don't. But one thing that stays consistent is our Monday appearances with you. But what'd you think last week? We had Senator Rand Paul on. He said he's deeply concerned that Congress could slip in the language effectively banning hemp by redefining it to exclude THC. He had a number of other things, but I know you got a chance to watch the full length of the interview, but what was your key takeaway from the conversation we had with him?
The conversation was a great conversation. And I think that, kudos to the show to be able to get Senator Paul on. And talk more, more about the issue. I thought what he had to say was extremely informative on the issue and some of the discussions that have gone on in the Senate and certainly discussions that he's led around the Senate as well. I think that what folks are trying to look at right now, and I do think that, the picture that was painted was one of urgency, but it's something that we've been talking about for quite some time. I don't think that this is a situation where that we haven't been talking about it, and it's just this has come up on a number of different occasions, and I think that what the senator did was just recognize the importance of this overall discussion. I do think that Congress is likely to do something at some point in the future. I don't think that the way that the market is right now is really tenable, and the regulation that is around it is kind of scant. And I think that the problem, at least at the federal level, and I think that the problem that we're seeing is that, and we've discussed this for a while, is that the Farm Bill was never really a great place to have language to begin with, because you can't really regulate by final product in the Farm Bill. So it left, a definition with some unintended loopholes.
Yeah.
So question, and that's actually a very good point that I didn't think to bring up during the interview. Senator Paul was adamant about regulating via final product versus at the plant level. Do you think that he realizes that the Farm Bill, the way that it's written, which he wants to increase the THC caps potentially on a go-forward basis, doesn't allow for the regulation of the end product that he's actually inferring?
Well, I think everybody sees this as a as a process. I mean, I think that he knows what it is that he wants to see, and regulation by final product is something that I think whatever it is that you say about the issue, everybody knows that that's what has to happen.
Correct.
Okay. And I think that what you also heard from Senator Paul is that there's broad agreement around the synthetic issue, which we've seen in a number of different states where these synthetic derivatives have popped up in these states. I do think that Senator Paul, has a good understanding of sort of what it is that he wants to see, and that he wants to see regulation by final product. One of the problems also that was interesting when he brought up that it should be regulated like corn, and then a senator had said that.
Yeah.
The difference between corn is that as a raw product, like you actually have to process corn in order to process it to make it into alcohol, whereas marijuana, you could just use you can use flour, right? So I think that there's actually an important step, like it's not exactly analogous, right? That's why you see some of the protections that you've seen at the state level, and it's always been very hard for people, at the field level, to be able to deal with that, because you can just grow product and sell it, right? Yeah. That's and so from a regulatory perspective, you have to account for that. I mean, people don't want to see farmers have issues because a product crop pops hot and like it wasn't intentional, right? They get rid of the product or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, again, that's a problem. All right. Everybody understands that that's a problem. Regulating the final product is really crucial, because how do you get, right? There are a lot of conversations. We look at all these different products in the marketplace, right? We all talk about here the importance of beverage, right? We talk about, medicinal uses of the plant. Mm-hmm. Well, you show me what that final product is, and I could tell you how to regulate it.
Correct.
Right? You don't do that, and then you get into all different types of questions about, well, what's in this? Where can this go? How could it be sold? I mean, so the Paul conversation, to me, what Senator Paul, I think, was making a point of is that regulation by final product. I think that there are folks who don't agree about what it is that you do to get to that final product. And I think that's a valid, that's a valid conversation to have. It needs to be had in the context of a complete policy. You can't really, I think the other point is that you can't really piecemeal marijuana legalization policy. I think that that's untenable too right now.
Correct.
What we learned and what we learned from the hemp market is that if you don't actually regulate the entire thing, then you really are regulating nothing.
Correct.
Right? It's either all under regulation or there's no regulation.
You're never going to fix it.
Kind of, yeah. And I think also that's a lesson that we're learning on the state by state markets as well. Because so look at Canada. We all talk about how we're going to be able to displace the illicit market. It took a while for Canada to really make a dent into that. And it took a while to get the market moving to the point where you really got to that. I think there's an expectation here in the United States, at least now from seeing what's going on internationally, but also on a state-by-state basis. It's very hard to say, okay, well, here are these walls, all right? And within these silos, this is X or Y is necessarily, is this is legal, this is not legal, this is where it is. I mean, to be sure, states can have their own programs, but there needs to be a minimum at some point when you do federal legalization, there needs to be a minimum federal standard to be able to know what is or what isn't, because then there's no regulatory enforcement.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, I think Paul, and we saw letters around this, there are folks who are really uncomfortable about having that conversation about what regulatory enforcement looks like.
Why do you think that is?
Because of the history of the cannabis industry and the unevenness of the way laws have been applied creates legitimate sensitivities around what enforcement looks like. And I think that we have to move from a spot where there's sort of that criminal enforcement to which really impacted people in some really terrible ways, to where we look at this as like, okay, it's a business, right? Yeah. Okay. If you do something wrong in a business, there's fines, there's civil penalties.
But at what point, at what point do we start to look at it as a business? I mean, the state-run industry is $30 billion. Hemp is arguably another $30 billion. I mean, we could argue that it's probably $100 billion in total revenue with cannabinoids in the United States right now. I mean, that's a business. Like that's an industry. I mean, we're there. Like we need this.
Yeah, good point.
We need that recognition, and that recognition alone. And I think that what we're seeing too is, I mean, Senator Paul said that he raised a lot of concerns about where he viewed some of the things that I think some of us would view in the States differently, where, he felt that there had been a lot of rollback, and the pendulum was swinging in the other direction. Yeah. And so I think that there's a disconnect there, but I also think there's a disconnect between what we think is industry and what's gone on in Congress too, for the last several years around the legalization discussion, because the facts on the ground are that essentially cannabis is legal in the United States right now. Like, where can't you get cannabis?
Technically it is. It's just not legal in the eyes of the feds.
Right.
Which brings us back to our giant problem. That is just an anchor around our neck.
It's more than a small point. And
how much did you think though? Like, it's just reading his body language or some of the dialogue that he had when it came to the intoxicating portion. Like, to me, it seemed like he's not really well that versed pertaining to it as to what's truly going on. Did you sense that at all? And is that that's obviously a concern?
I think Congress doesn't really know. And then the other thing that we're seeing is that folks are going in to advocate in Congress, and they're not talking truthfully about what these products are, or they're out in the market. I mean, I've even seen, there are some organizations that basically are like sending around talking points to Congress. Like, they're telling their members how to go in, and they're saying, like, avoid talking about products that sound like they're traditional marijuana products, or, avoid terms like intoxicating, right? Like, and instead talk about them being wellness products, right? Like focus on wellness or proven hemp products, like stuff like that, right? Like you start seeing the problem is like
the problem is that's true.
Yeah. There are some, right?
The problem is that's, I mean, I would argue, and this is splitting hairs, but I would argue that a 2.5 milligram gummy that has minor cannabinoids in it, that's built for a certain use, whether it's sleep, relaxation, etc., is wellness versus intoxicating.
I would agree that there are, right, but you can't hide the fact that we want to sell intoxicating products.
Correct.
Don't do that.
Correct.
Right?
I agree with you there completely.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like if we want to sell intoxicating products and you want to sell it under the auspices of whatever definition or whatever it is you want to do federally, it can't be an unintended consequence of policy. Yeah. It needs to be the intended consequence of policy. Yeah. All right. Because the thing is that in order to get acceptance around the market, it needs to be okay. All right. And so if the problem that we see right now is there really is a disconnect between the discussion of what is out there, right, and what is it that people know is out there. All right. And I think that those are two different things. And the Senator Paul interview, I think, brought that a little bit to light, where you were talking about, okay, well, what is it that these intoxicating products necessarily look like? I thought it was really informative. I thought it was a really good.
He also made the point that even when bad language gets stripped out, like in the Senate AG spending bill, it could come back during conference or in appropriations. He said the fight is never really over. So what are you guys doing in this whole process, and what are you watching for closely in these next few weeks?
I think that the fight, so when people think about that, like this again is part and parcel with the Farm Bill conversation.
Okay.
Because when you are dealing with a farm bill that's reauthorized every 5 years, that's not like a great spot to be having to fight for existence, right? In a bill that is reauthorized where those things are. I think that really what you need to do to get to legalization is actually pass a legalization bill.
But don't you think that was the intended strategy with putting it in the farm bill, that they knew it would have some insulation from just being rescinded, let's say a year or 2 years later, and it could carry, it would actually be shielded technically from that time duration with the farm bill getting addressed if it didn't work out?
No, I think part of the strategy is that they thought of hemp as a agricultural product.
Yeah.
Right. It is.
It is.
But I think a lot of what's going on in the market right now is undermining the agriculturability 100%. Of that product and the industrial product, which arguably has even more applicability and promise than, THC, JD, MB, NDA, whatever you want to call them. Right. So like that really actually needs to happen. And I think that there's a real, I think that with the Farm Bill, that's something that is exceedingly important. And that's why it was there in the Farm Bill, because it was an industrial product. If it was, and one of the things that they didn't do, which FDA probably, should have done, and we argued that they had the power to do, was to come in and regulate and also to come in and do CBD products.
I was going to say, we're still waiting on the FDA to regulate CBD products.
Right. So if the FDA and I would say, look, during the Farm Bill, CBD was one of the things that folks knew about and was supposed to come about as a marketplace. Mm-hmm. All right. And they still weren't able to get to that regulation. So what about, that was the stuff that they agreed on. What about all this stuff they didn't agree on? Right. Yeah. So that's the point. The point here is that, I think that there will continue to be a conversation on it, with where the interview was and also where folks are. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where that's going to go. But I think that I think that where the where the conversation has been up to this point, it illustrated some of the confusion that folks have about what's going on in the marketplace.
Yeah. One thing he did say to us as well is we asked him about safer banking, and he firmly believed that there needs to be more presence by the marijuana industry lobbying on this. Obviously, safer banking, the topic of hemp, lobbying more in Washington. Do you agree with him? Like, from what I'm hearing, maybe that wasn't the case a couple years ago, but from what I've been hearing recently, like the industry itself has made a strong presence in Washington recently. Is that accurate for him to say that or think that? I guess he has his own opinion, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that what really is going on in Washington when it comes to presence on behalf of the cannabis space?
Yeah, I think that the thing is that there hasn't been enough growth around that advocacy. And also people aren't used to the traditional angles for how to do the advocacy. So, and the other thing is you can't really start from the top down. You have to do the bottom up stuff. I think that the blocking and tackling that hasn't happened shows in some of the things that we see Congress doing. And it also shows in some of the things that we haven't achieved yet. But the thing is that I would also say that this industry, if you look at the cannabis industry, so look at the adult use side of the equation that went state by state, because it went state by state, a lot of times what happened was those states would legalize and people wouldn't be totally aligned with what policy should look like in the next jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. And federally, it was too hard to get together to make decisions about which of those strategies should take primacy on it. And I think even today, there's disagreement about what should be addressed and when it should be addressed. And there's disagreement amongst operators even sometimes about that too. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's I think it's something that's fair to say, but it's something that we are very much working on addressing. And it attach, like, I mean, I feel like the type of advocacy that's being done right now is like 100 times more effective than the advocacy that was going on 10 years ago. And that's just from the growth of our own organization. So, but I do think that it's a valid point.
All right, got a good comment here, Brian Dombrowski, and he writes, BS, we've been testing this plant and studying these cannabinoids since before I got into the industry in 2002. The authors of the Farm Bill were touring California farms in 2017.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the cannabinoids and the chemistry going on that, I think that's revisionist history. I think if you go back and you read the comments at the time around the Farm Bill and the public record that was available, but also some of the discussions they've been having privately, I think anybody who says that they knew that there would be synthetic THC derivatives on the marketplace as a result of the Farm Bill, right, was kidding themselves. And also, by the way, if folks knew that, why did the market only develop after 2020? Yeah. Why didn't the market happen right after the Farm Bill passed?
Good point. Right? Very good point.
At which point people would be creating these synthetic derivative products at the moment that the Farm Bill passed. That's not what happened. So I think that, to my way of thinking, that's the way it is. And also, if that were true too, then why in the state level plans after the Farm Bill were none of those things addressed? Then states didn't submit back to the federal government that that's what they would be doing when they did that under statute. I was around in 2018. Okay. Yeah. I was here on this as well. And I have a view about what those discussions were at, and I don't discount, what's said here on that, but I don't think that the record, bears that history.
Well, I think with that statement you just made right there, if you were in the courtroom, you just went over the jury. That was a very, very good point when you see the growth as to what happened since post 2018. So valid points for sure. I know you got a holiday event to attend, so we'll let you run. But next week, got to have you on. We'll get an update at a PA, as well as Virginia. Like that gubernatorial. When is the date for that? Is that November 12th? Right around the corner. Not long at all. So book your flight and hotel to MJ Biz in Vegas too. The hotels are selling out fast and they're not cheap. But listen, always good catching up with you. And yeah, let's get an update on PA and Virginia next week when you have you back on. Okay, Michael?
Looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
have a
sir.
great week. We'll see you next Monday.
Election day is the 4th this year. Tuesday, November 4th.
Tuesday, November 4th. Man, that'll be here in no time.
Yeah.
So things are about to get real here in the 11th hour in Virginia, which is great. And hopefully we, I don't know, Brian. Michael is wrong. Yes, I don't necessarily agree with that, but he makes a point on how much the industry grew substantially post 2018. There is a reason for that. It's just, to me, is common sense. But anyway,
it's not even so much as the industry grew. It's just the products evolved with the freedom that the industry had. I mean, is there? I mean, and I don't pay attention enough to the hemp industry to understand. Is there a need for Delta Zero, Delta 10, THCP, all of these exotic synthetic cannabinoids, or is the consumer satisfied with Delta 9 THC to certain percentages and degrees, CBD, minor cannabinoids, CBN, CBG, THCV? Like, are these products that are orders of magnitude stronger than, let's say, a regular Delta 9 product even needed?
Yeah.
What truly is their use in the marketplace other than just being a synthetic that amplifies the effects of THC?
Yeah, well said, Mitch. After that date, you could basically ship hemp to your door. Valid points. All right, we'll wrap up this topic for now. It's now time for our featured interview of this week, and let's welcome in the CEO of Rubicon Organics, Margaret Brodie. Here we are back and forth talking about all these interesting things, but things seem to be all right up in Canada. How are you, and how was the summer? I think you're on mute.
You're on mute.
You're on mute. All good. All good.
Thank you. Summer was awesome.
Was it?
People, we're really seeing the continuation of the trend that we saw at the beginning of last year. Canada's stabilized in a big way in terms of our products and the offerings, momentum. The international markets have brought a lot of excitement, and it's good. It's been a good summer.
Yeah, that's great to see. I look at this and, we looked at some of the European opportunities as well, but I think people have to understand that there's a federal government budget hearing. They're hinting at a generational investment package in the upcoming budget. That's scheduled for November the 4th, if I'm correct. Any idea, any takeaways on what this could actually mean when they say generational investment? Obviously, a lot of investment into infrastructure in Canada, but any conversations around this excise tax from what you've seen and heard?
I think when they say generational investment, they're not going to be looking at reducing their tax base at all.
Yeah.
And I think you got to be realistic about where the coffers of government are. We, as an industry, since legalization, have contributed over 30 billion to government revenues. 30 billion.
30 billion? Is it that much?
Yeah, it's that much. So that's in the OCS report that they just put out in June. And look, over 100,000 people employed, 76 billion contributed to Canada's GDP. I mean, these are massive numbers.
Yeah.
But I still think that we have a lot of work to do to reduce stigma, because a big part of why we're not getting attention that I think the alcohol industry would get is stigma. So look, the government's going to make a generational investment. I think that was Minister Champagne's comment last week on the weekend. Prime Minister Carney is clearly got a Canada First agenda and is doing that. He announced 5 major projects. I think they were called nation building projects.
Yep.
2 weeks ago, across the country around largely energy, mining, and resources.
Yep.
Okay.
So, we also have a lot of homes that we need to build in this country. So I think with the tariffs that are in place with steel and aluminum going down to the US, Canada's going to find a way to put that to work in Canada.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, they have to. And we're in that situation, right? Given the current circumstances as to what's going on. But when we spoke to you last month, you walked us through the numbers. Revenue growth was up, profitability Rubicon positioning itself very, very fine. But beyond earnings, the Canadian consumer is evolving in interesting ways. This summer, we saw pre-rolls become the #1 category, vape trends shifting from carts to all-in-ones, ongoing SKU rationalization across provinces. So these are signals, again, to your point, is the market is maturing. So from your perspective, like, what did the summer tell us about the Canadian cannabis market and its consumers here today?
The rise of convenience.
Yeah.
You know, the consumer is finally starting to trust what's in the package, and or at least get consistency from the brands that they know. We've seen the top, call it 10 to 13 companies, hold relative share and hold positioning. You know, there's a good dogfight happening within there. And I think the brands are starting to come through, and I suspect the next move will be in the same way that you drive a Mercedes, a BMW, or an Audi, because each one says something about your personality. We're going to start to see brand over the next 5 years move more towards a reflection of sort of the emotion and the attachment. But it all starts from quality and consistency.
Yeah, makes sense.
How much quality and consistency is being put into, let's say, the pre-roll category as it's growing in Canada? I mean, as a consumer, like, I've purchased pre-rolls in Canada, I've purchased plenty of pre-rolls in the States. And I mean, I don't want to say it's hit or miss, but I mean, there's a lot of QA, QC that needs to be done to that product. Is that what's occurred? That product's been shored up, and as a byproduct of that, it's just taken off in terms of popularity with consumers?
I think two things. One is, I have to admit that I exclusively consume our pre-rolls. So I probably should go out and try some others, because I know the quality, and I know that it's all flower in those pre-rolls. There's no trim or stem or any of that other stuff. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to offer a premium experience and make sure that that's true. I think people have just gotten more consistent. And so if you are paying for a value product, you're getting a value product, but at least it's more consistent within that. And with a premium product, you should know every time it's going to be great.
Yeah. How are we progressing on the Hope facility?
Great question. Well, we're gonna soon be renaming that facility. I can give you a sneak peek that it's going to be called Cascadia. Don't get me into too much trouble. Just thinking of the Cascade Mountains, because I was getting a little bit of feedback that I shouldn't be talking about Hope so much. It is in the town of Hope, BC, but a CEO talking about the Hope strategy doesn't sound very good.
Okay.
So look,
sounds like us talking about reform.
Yeah,
exactly.
So the Cascadia facility is an indoor facility. We are expecting a license at some point in the fourth quarter. Probably would have loved to have had it this summer, but you know, we work with our regulars on what they need. It's going to add 40% annual production capacity to our business, about 4,500 kilos. So really massive. And it's, what I think is particularly exciting is we've had strains and genetics that just haven't loved the existing hybrid greenhouse facility that we have. And they're going to have an opportunity to go and try and grow there and see, you know, some strains just prefer an indoor environment. So we'll see how that goes. I'm very bullish on it, very excited, but whilst I'm very excited, I'm realistic about it's going to take time to optimize. We're very pragmatic at Rubicon. We're not going to put any product out into our brands unless it hits quality. So we expect first revenue in the first half.
Okay.
But you know, when it hits, it'll go into our products. And before that, we'll monetize it in one way or another. But we won't do anything to reduce our brand.
I'm sure you saw the announcement. I think it was, I don't know if it was last month or the month before, about High Tide with Remexian and the stake that they bought into their house of brands. I think it was 51% stake into Remexian. But Phil writes, is Rubicon moving into Germany under High Tide's house of brands? I don't know if that's something you can basically answer at this particular time, which I don't think it is. But I just wanted to see if that grabbed your interest, because I'm sure Raj is having conversations with various Canadian companies.
Well, firstly, Raj does a great job, and High Tide is a customer of ours, and we tremendously respect what they've built in Canada.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with brand in Germany in a medical environment.
Yeah,
it's early days for us. For international, we said we're in test and learn. I expect we'll have shipped to a number of countries by the end of this year, relatively small batches. We've been in markets, listening and learning. We will, when we do launch internationally, we'll do it with a front foot, appropriate step that has built on strategy. And whether that's in 26 or 27, TBD timing. We need the Hope facility up online, or Cascadia, I should call it. Excuse me. But look, I think there's still so much green space in the international markets. Everything's on the table at this stage.
Yeah.
We talk about the evolution of products a lot. We talk about the evolution of the markets a lot. I mean, one thing we don't really talk about a lot of the time is like market cap and valuation.
Yeah.
What have you seen throughout the years change in terms of valuation or market cap? And are you seeing investors or any sort of analyst that you're speaking to start to look at companies through a different lens, let's say, versus they're focused on Canada versus focused on the EU? Does anything like that come into effect when looking at valuing the business?
I would say the trend that we've had since January is value investors discovering our business. Okay. There certainly are funds and strategics that are looking at, I want to be X or Y. That's not what we're hearing at this stage. I think anything that you're doing in cannabis, if you are being the leader at it and winning at it, you're carving out yourself an incredibly investable business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to look 10 years down the line, and these businesses are going to be multinational, extremely different, built off of individually excellent companies will be the winning ones, as long as they can get that culture right. So I'd love to talk, we can talk about what's happening in the markets with value investors, because I don't know if you're seeing that in the US, but we're certainly seeing it in Canada as a trend.
No, I mean, as far as institutional investors right now in the US, I mean, the conversations are few and far between, especially with the publicly traded stuff.
Yeah, so we've seen a trend in Canada where I believe the TSXV is up 100% on financings this year in terms of the amount raised. From 2020 until now, small caps and micro caps have just been decline.
Yeah.
You add cannabis and the lack of trust there, and it's even further. But we've seen a new trend. And, when I stepped into this chair 3 years ago, I was speaking with a number of experienced public company board directors, and they said, you're going to need to rebuild credibility. So it isn't to say, it was just on the industry front to show that you're different and that you do what you say you're going to do. So, be careful in being promotional, look to be consistent, deliver on what you say you're going to do, and do it time and time again. And so if you look at our history, that's what we've been looking to do, not take undue risk with our balance sheet, but build the business year on year. I think what that means now is the investor that's identifying us is a value investor who can look at a track record and see, wow, there's consistent growth. Wow, they're doing what they say they're going to do. And now when you look at a company like ours today, it's valued less than 1 times revenue, and we've got an acquisition that's going to increase our production by 40% ish, and that's not even included in the valuation. So we've got to execute, but I think we've demonstrated the ability to do that in the past, and we're putting all the resources that we think are appropriate to make sure it's successful.
So where do you think valuations then go over these next 12 to 24 months?
So if you think that companies on the whole are below 1 times revenue, low on EBITDA from last year.
Yep.
Look forward, I would expect that we're somewhere between 7 times and 12 times next year's EBITDA would probably be the right way to do it, presuming next year's plans are, like for a company like ours, taking into account what we can do with the acquisition. And from that, a number of the stocks out there, in particular in the Canadian space, they could go up 100 to 200 to 300%. But we've got to continue to do the work that we're doing now.
Yeah.
And show the track record. And there's companies out there doing it.
For analysts like Federico Gomes are saying the same sentiment. It's warming modestly is what he said, and exposure is increasing. And as you said, Rubicon still trading at under 1 times revenue, even with profitability and growth. So I think in a lot of ways, as you said before, don't be overly promotional and back up what you said. So how do you reconcile, I guess, that disconnect with what you're trading at versus what you're producing fundamentally with investors? Well,
firstly, we've got to continue to demonstrate that we deliver. And I think, a lot of people were very burned. So it's every day you go out and you do a better job than you did the day before.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're consistent in what you do. You're straightforward, you're transparent, and let's be real, you go out and win with the consumer and do it through your revenue line. And we're very focused on, we talk about elevated experiences, and every day, with the high performing team, I want our products to get better every day. I was speaking to someone last week who was up from another country that's starting an outdoor grow in a emerging cannabis company. And he said to me, when did you, like, how many crops did it take to get good, to get to where you guys are? And I found I couldn't answer the question because I'm still not I'm not happy, even though we're the premium leader in Canada. We have so much work to go, and our team has such a hunger to get better. I'm excited to see where this is going to go in 5-10 years and how great Canadian cannabis is going to be.
Where do you see it? I don't want to say 5 to 10, but the next 3 to 5.
3 to 5. Well, I think we're going to see consolidation of great companies coming together.
Yeah.
That's for strategic purposes, not for survival. And I think those companies will come together and then look at moving into international distribution. So coming together with other countries, and we're going to see the first proper multinationals built. I'd love to see them headquartered out of Canada, but proper multinationals, which are building consistent brands, consistent experiences, and proper supply chains.
Here's something interesting to ask. When you look at Germany, you look at Australia, you look at even the US, and there's changes on the horizon, what do you think is the one core lesson that you would tell regulators and operators on what you've learned in Canada that maybe they should adopt?
Well, we say walk, crawl, run. Part of that is focus on your core competency, figure out what you do really, really well, that better than anyone else, and you're right to win, and lean into it. A lot of companies try to do everything, and we saw that in the early days of the Canadian environment.
Oh, did we ever?
And then don't overspend. Like, watch every dollar, because there's fierce competition coming and price compression in every single one of those markets. And when you think you've seen price compression, I mean, I know the US experience is going through it right now. In Canada, we went through it. It is fierce, and if you're not ready to, you don't have the balance sheet and the people with the mindset of scarcity, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, agreed. The stakes make you better at what you do, but honestly, right now, it's great to see some of the great stories. Yourself, High Tide, Village Farms. There's some really, really good companies that are the talk of the industry right now, and it's promising to see. So everything that's old is new again, but along that way were a lot of lessons learned. But now, as you said, there's a lot of great opportunity, and people understand what they're doing, and they understand the nature of the industry, and more importantly, what consumers want. And that's everything, right?
And it's fun. Our products make people feel great. We're getting better every day. Some of the terpene results from this summer have just been off the charts. I'm so excited. Our genetics are getting better. We want to be the world leader, not just the Canadian leader, the world leader in genetics. And I think there's some incredible places out there, and there's more and more stories to tell.
Yeah. Let's, after we get off this interview, I'm going to follow up with you tomorrow, but let's lock down a date in October so Anthony and I can come out to Vancouver, because we got to see this new facility. And I think it's been about a year since we were out there last, when we were out to see Pure Sun Farms, but I know you guys are just down the road from them, but what a great spot. But yeah, let's lock that down and get us out there and see if we can, arrange a date and time to get some footage, because I'm sure a lot of people would be happy to see some of that new facility that you're about to launch.
Absolutely. Well, we get a lot of people coming into our Delta facility, soon to be called Pacifica, and it is so much fun to walk amongst the plants and just absolutely beautiful plants. And look, at a compliment from someone the other day who said, I didn't really, know too much about your company, whatever. And I heard from someone who went through it, who's a real cannabis connoisseur. You guys are the real deal.
Oh, that's
awesome. Isn't that great to hear that?
Yeah, because,
of course. We're people build businesses, and you want to stay connected to your community and to your stakeholders to build things and brands and products that people attach to and have a consistent experience, but also trust. And we're here to do that.
Awesome. And I could see in the passion. Rubicon Organics trades with the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol ROMJ. Always great chatting with you, and I'll follow up with you tomorrow to see if we can lock down a date for next month. How's that sound?
Great, guys.
All right. Always great to speak with you, Margaret. Appreciate your time.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Very passionate. And you know what? It proves she's doing the great work, and quality sells, right?
It does. This industry especially.
Would you best compare it to like wine? where it's people like quality.
Yeah, but I mean, also when you look at wine, Yellowtail sells a hell of a lot of wine. Wine and beer. I mean, you look at alcohol. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like everybody likes high-end alcohol, but at the same time, the cheap stuff sells the most.
Yeah, you're right.
Like Budweiser sells a hell of a lot of beer. They probably sell more than expensive champagne.
Yeah.
But yes, it's very analogous.
Need to get a Budweiser once they get into the cannabis space as a sponsor. The cool, refreshing taste that always goes down easy. There's my voiceover voice. All right, VFF had a good day today. Was it up close to $3?
Did. It's
also
like
saw
280 something.
Started getting the questions filtering in, saying AV, you're predicting, you thought something would get announced by the end of September. I know you just love those comments, but listen, I think it is important. You brought up actually a very good point before we went live today, and we were talking about some of these stats, you know, with how the Republicans leading into the midterms are pacing well ahead of the Democrats. And, you know, it was something that, should we talk about this? And I think it's something that we should just own. We don't really know, like, as far as any kind of update or announcement as to when it would happen or if it does happen, but there's some interesting takes that people need to consider. But you brought up a couple of good points if you want to highlight it.
Yeah, it was a CNN poll that was about who do you trust more, the Democrats or the Republicans as it relates to crime, immigration, and the economy. And this is a CNN poll, mind you. The Republicans were up in every category. They were up 3 points in the economy. They were up 13 points in immigration, and they were up 10 points in crime. So key issues going into the midterms, the Republicans are gaining trust within the American public on the backs of Donald Trump's policies.
Yeah, telling to say the least, but
very much so.
Yeah, it is. So I think, you know, this whole cartel and the CCP meeting last week is big. And in the grand scheme of things, it's like, I think that needs to be at the forefront of messaging right now, combined with the 500,000 jobs.
Law and order and shutting down the TC. Law and order and shutting down the TCOs.
Because I think with that angle, and this is just me, and I'm not saying it's accurate, I just think that Donald Trump cares less about rescheduling and more about taking an issue from the Democrats. The way I view it.
It's political.
Yeah, that's for sure. So to answer everybody's question, all we can sit here and say is that we haven't heard anything, and we're not going to hear anything because it's only going to come from one person, which is the president. But all we can sit here and say is hope we get something announced at some point this month. But we sit and we wait. I know it's probably not the feedback that you guys want to hear, but that's just the reality. But we'll be here every single day giving you updates. And listen, I know people get seeing a lot of the same TDR cannabis and fives, and a lot of it pertains to around rescheduling. That's what people want to see and consume right now. So I'm trying to provide as much information possible on multiple angles to look at. So again, provide any feedback on what you guys want as far as any content. I'm here with open ears to hear what you want to produce, and we'll put that together. But as Trent Woloveck said on Friday, there's only one thing that people, quote unquote, give a shit about right now, and it's rescheduling.
That's true.
There's only so much we can talk about. We're trying to drum up things off to the side, but at the same time, too, we get it. We understand it. We understand everybody's thinking analogy behind all this right now, too. And the waiting game's hard. With that, Wednesday, Eric Berlin from Denton's is going to be on with us, along with the Organigram team. They're going to be on Wednesday. And then give you guys a quick update, too. We're trying to get Big Mike on our live stream on Friday morning this week, but we also got a polarizing guest. Mark Cahotis is going to be coming back on with us. He's going to talk about his trip that he had a couple of weeks ago in Washington, what the takeaway was. So mark that in your calendar. So we got a jam-packed week of interesting guests, some polarizing personalities. That's the way we like it right now. And why not have people on that have been to Washington recently? So make sure you stay connected with us. In the meantime, big Monday night game. My Lions are playing Baltimore. I don't know about the outcome of that one, but I'm hoping the Lions get a Monday night victory. Is that it for you today, my friend?
I'm good.
He's good. I hope you all are too. We'll see you back here Wednesday at 4:00. Thanks, everyone. TDR, Trade of Black podcast, presented by Dutchie. See you Wednesday at 4.
I'll see everybody tomorrow over on the members channel.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. We got to speed that up.
We teed it up on Friday. Yeah, we're good. I'll see everybody on the members channel tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. So, what'd you think of all that information? Some interesting stuff that we just learned once again here at the TDR Trade to Black podcast. Let's keep the conversation going. So leave your comments below. We'd love to get your feedback. As usual, if you have time, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash on that bell for all notifications. And stay connected with us here at the Trade to Black podcast. Thanks for watching, everyone.